Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for the 2024 LAM Summer Reading Challenge. Yay, and Kizzi is here too. All right, I'm letting her in. So for those of you guys who might be watching this later, I'm just going to go ahead and say, if you're watching it later, be sure that you comment on the video so that I know that you watched it, so you can get your 10 points. Those of you who are here live and in person, yay, I'm so excited, and you get 20 points. So I'll explain the points in just a moment. As everybody is kind of getting in here, I'm just going to tell you guys a little bit about the challenge, and hopefully it isn't too confusing. Hopefully it makes sense. In the Facebook group, that is the place to be. We'll be posting in there every day. So like you guys found the link to this in there. I'm going to try to pin things like that and kind of move around the pins so you can look under the featured stuff to find out whatever is the hot topic of the day. And so that's where all of that stuff will be. This is our first of 3 big events. Okay, so we've got tonight we're going to have 4 of our authors. So Jan Franklin, who will be our first featured author, is actually at a really cool mystery con or something like that in Nashville this weekend. So she wasn't going to make it back quite in time for tonight. So you guys are going to love her, and you're going to get to meet the other authors tonight. So this is the first of the 3 big ones. So then we're going to have the mid-challenge boost, and the final big event is our winner's toast and wine down. And that'll be the last thing. That's where we'll announce the 2 grand prize winners. So how to win. Okay, there are 3 types of prizes. So all of you guys who have shown up here tonight will be entered to win a book swag prize pack. So for these 3 big events, whoever's here, I'm going to jot y'all's names down on a piece of paper in a minute. So when the other authors are talking and I'm over here scribbling, I'm not being rude, I promise. I'm writing y'all's names down, and I'm going to draw somebody. And the authors have provided some really amazing swag. So I had my daughter make some little book sleeves. So that's in there. We've got stickers, we've got magnets, we've got all sorts of goodies, bookmarks, buttons, pouches, all sorts of really cool things. So that's what you guys are going to get. And that is my new puppy making noise. So y'all might hear him too. So that's one type of prize. And that's just, y'all show up here, your name's going to go into the drawing, and that's how you win that. The other 2 prizes are the 5 weeks that we have featured authors. Their week, they're going to be giving away very generously an autographed copy of their featured book. So if you participate that week, the most points for that week is going to get that book. So that's pretty much how that works. And then our 2 grand prize winners, that is going to be for the whole summer. So all 8 weeks, your points are going to add up, and that's when you comment on our daily posts. That's 10 points right there. When you come live to these, that's 20 points. If you come in and watch it later, if you don't get to make it live, and comment on it, that's how I know. So you have to comment, then you get the 10 points. Okay, and then the other grand prize is whoever reads the most books. So you guys have probably already seen in the group, there is the challenge categories. Okay, so that is how that works. You just read those books, check them off as you go, right under that post when you complete them. And that's how we'll kind of keep up with it. And if you need more than 8 categories, I got you covered. Just let me know. Once you complete those 8, then I'll give you some more and we'll go from there. So I think that's pretty much the rundown of how you can win prizes. And the whole point of this really is so we can bring readers and authors together, just to share the joy of reading and books and stories and how amazing all of that is. And so hopefully this is going to be a fun time for you guys. Don't feel pressured to do everything. You're not going to be able to do everything. That's totally fine. But there are so many different options for you to interact and participate in whatever ways you're comfortable with. So hopefully there's something here for everybody. That's the goal. And 2 more things that I'm going to say very quickly. And then we're going to get into talking to our authors, because that's really the big point tonight. First of all, this week is what I like to call my intro week. So this week, you're going to have a daily post in the group each day. Comment on it. There'll be questions. There'll be things that we can just kind of chat about, chat with each other in the comments, that kind of thing. And then next week will be our first featured author week. And Jan Franklin will be starting us off. So you guys will get to meet her. It'll start on Sunday of next week. I'll have a little intro post so that you guys can get to know a little bit more about her. And then on the Thursday night, that is right, ladies, right? Thursday nights is when I'm doing the chats with the featured authors. And that'll be one-on-one. I'll be asking them some questions. And then you guys can also ask questions. And that's how that will work. So, and then the second thing is, I also all year round have a book club. And this is not your typical book club. It's virtual. It's like this. And it's no set book. So you just show up. And whatever you're reading, share about it. So our first one will be on this Thursday night. Now, the time for that is 8 o'clock Central. Okay, everything else that has to do with the Summer Reading Challenge is 7 p.m. Central. My book clubs, though, are 8 p.m. So I just decided to leave them the way that they are. So we'll have one in June and one in July. It's always the first Thursday, typically, of the month. July, it will be the first Friday, I believe, because we have July the 4th in the US. So, yes, my baby puppy, Kaiser. All right, I have talked enough. Now, I get to introduce you guys to our featured authors. So be thinking like if you guys have questions that you want to ask the authors, or if you have questions about the challenge as well, but especially if there's anything that you might want to ask them as we go. So I am going to start off by asking, hold on, I'm going to put this in the chat so I can see it and I'm not like clicking around. Okay, I asked them to share the following details with us in under 2 minutes. Okay, so I asked you guys to introduce yourself and the book that you're going to be giving away, and just a little bit about what kinds of books you write, something unusual about yourself, and what you're currently working on, or if you have a new or upcoming release. So if you guys will share those things, I'm going to start with Alina, if you'll go first, and then Cassie, and then Kizzi. Yay!
Should I go ahead? Okay. So my name is Alina Rubin. The book I'm giving away is Abigail's Song, which is the first book of the Hearts and Harmony series that I've started. I'm soon going to be working on the sequel. Something unusual about me. I guess it's unusual. I've started writing historical fiction and generally writing fiction at all only 3 years ago. A lot of people tell me that they wanted to be writers when they were in college, or they knew as a kid that they wanted to be writers. I was always a very avid reader, but it never crossed my mind to become a writer until during the pandemic 3 years ago. I spent most of my career in IT compliance, and now actually I'm a full-time author and helping other people write their books. What I'm working on the third book of Hearts and Sales series, which is my series about a young woman who is a surgeon. The book is called Imprisoned, so it will come out later this year. Should I tell more about the book, or because I know I held it up and said the title, should I say a little more about it? Okay, so Abigail's Song, it's a historical fiction, early 19th century. Abigail, the book starts when she's an orphan and she's adopted by a Jewish family, and they realize that she's an extremely talented musician. So the story is her musical journey and also a love story and kind of religious choices and coming of age story.
Go ahead, Cassie.
Okay. I'm Cassie Greutman. I write fantasy and most subgenres. I mostly focus on urban fantasy, but I have dabbled in epic as well. All of my books have a common thread of found family because I love that, where very different people come together and all have each other's backs. Something unusual about me is my day job is taking care of a horse facility. So I take care of 34 horses all day. and then come in and write all night. I'm currently working on book 2 in my Shadows of Chaos series. Storm of Magic just came out in May, and it's been doing really well. I've been excited for the feedback about that one. That one's about an officer in LA who closes a Fae portal, and when she does that, she basically paints a target on her family because the Fae that opened the portal is very angry. So she has to deal with that lady, and some interesting things happen there. And then I'm also working on book 5 in my Penchant for Trouble series. That series is about a Fae girl in the human foster care system, and she's blackmailed by the Fae to help them catch an escaped fugitive. And the only thing that she has that she cares about in the world is her new foster family. So that's what they threaten to take from her. And then, yeah, that's it.
Kizzi?
Hi, I'm Kizzi Hutchison. I publish under Kizzi Roberts, which is my maiden name. So I, as of now, have just published books for children. I'm hoping to expand into some other genres over the next year, but I am about to have a baby, so that might slow things down. Yeah. But my series I'm working on now, I have a chapter book series out. It's called Critter Camp Kids, and it kind of focuses on 4 girls ages 10 and 11 at a summer camp where they get to take care of different animals and have all the usual summer camp shenanigans as well. So book 2, and that one just came out, in March, April. I can't remember. Recently, I've started working on book 3, so it all kind of runs together. And I work with illustrator Stephen Gilpin on those, and he's just so great to work with and bring my ideas to life with his little drawings. So I just love it. Let's see, something unusual that the other, so I used to work for the circus. So that was fun. Traveled with that a lot. And then my life is far less interesting after that, but, and then, the other things I'm working on, I have, book 3, trying to write for Critter Camp Kids. And then I have a nonfiction picture book series I've been kind of jumped right into. It's the series name is Animal Clues Guess Who, and it's kind of geared towards 5 to 8-year-olds, younger kids. I have a 3-year-old, so like you could read it with your toddlers, but but it's basically, it gives like a close-up picture and some clues about an animal, and then on the next spread is the reveal of what the animal is with some more facts. And so the most recent release in that one is actually farm animals. And I teamed up with my friends who have a farm just south of town here. And we actually took most of the pictures ourselves of their animals. So that was kind of fun to, have that more personalized element for that one. So I'm having a lot of fun with animals, since that is my background, is in animal science. So there's a lot of animal themes in my books. So
That's awesome. I love it. Okay, so I can't wait. Each of these ladies, you're going to get to see a lot more for their featured weeks, their one-on-one chats. You'll get to talk to them a lot more. And then since Jan couldn't be here tonight, just very quickly, I'll give you a peek. So this is Mufaladas and Murder. And she writes very Louisiana, good food and all of that, and some murders with a twist. But it's like cozy mystery. So if you're into cozy mystery, that is what she's got. And she also has another series that I have not read yet, but it's not the mystery part of it. It's just more Louisiana, Southern kind of series, I think. So there is that. And then I am your other featured author. And this summer I am featuring One Good Thing, which is the final book in my collection, Carolina's Legacy Collection. And so this kind of rounds it all out. The collection has a novel, a novella, and a short story collection, and this is the epistolary, which just means that this is a story that is told through letters and journal entries. And so two of my characters from the previous books, specifically the novel Any Good Thing, the first one that came out, it's their story told through their own words, Jack's letters that he wrote to the girl he left behind, and the girl he left behind, Rachel. It's her journal entries from the same time period. So that is what this book is. And I call this Southern fiction with Christian roots, is kind of how I've titled the genre, I guess you would say. Something unusual about me is I love music, but my tastes are as wide as my writing and reading tastes happen to be. So I like everything from classical to metal, and that's me. Right now I am working on a collection of true stories about the animals that I've had in my life, and I cannot wait for that to get out in the world. There's a lot of work to be done on it, but it is being done and I'm very excited. So yes, I think that's everything. Did I answer all of my questions? I think I did. All right. So now, because our featured authors each write in a different genre, I really wanted to highlight that with you guys. And so I wanted you each to share, we'll go back in the same order, and just tell a little bit about, your primary genre. Some of us write multiple genres, but tell us why you love writing that genre, how you would describe it to a reader, because sometimes we tend to kind of write specific, like my Southern fiction with Christian roots. Like it's just kind of, just to say Southern fiction, I don't feel like gets the whole thing, right? So why you love writing that and how you would describe it, and what kinds of books you read most often, because I'm curious if you read the same kind of books you write, or if you might read something different. So, Alina, you can get us started.
Sure. Okay, so I write 19th century historical fiction. What I love about it is, I guess, sometimes people say, why did I choose historical fiction? I always feel like it chose me. I think I was always drawn to it a little more than other things. And even before when I was like watching Netflix, and for the first time, probably during the pandemic, I was always picking the historical fiction period pieces, that always drew me. For me, it's pretty hard to always be accurate, and it always bothered me. Like, what if I got something wrong and somebody pointed it out? But at some point, I told myself my job is to tell a great story and to delight my readers. If I got something wrong, I'm sorry, but it's fiction. I'm not a historian, but I always want to tell people a great story. And I think in what I really love, life was very hard for a lot of people in 19th century and earlier, like things we take for granted, antibiotics, vaccines, they were not there. And I actually put a lot of medical things in my books because I enjoy reading about doctors at the time and how dangerous it was, like to be a doctor, or even just getting sick, like a cough could have been deadly because of antibiotics. So I think it makes me appreciate the things we have and the opportunities people have now versus back then. And just I love that I always can learn more. And I do read a lot of historical fiction. I'm reading, what is it called? The Lost Apothecary right now, and I'm really enjoying it. And I always see how many books are coming out, and a lot of great women writers, I think, are now writing great historical fiction. And I enjoy reading it.
Okay. Well, what I love about writing urban fantasy is I just think it's fun to imagine our world with actual magic here. I can put in things that I know, cities and stores and restaurants that I know, but then add magic to it also. I think it's really fun to be able to do that and kind of make my own world out of the world that we live in. urban fantasy is kind of just fantasy set in our world. So, magic and that type of thing, instead of the general medieval setting that most fantasy is set in, which is more like epic fantasy type books. My favorite books to read, really any type of fantasy, I'll give it a try. So I read a lot of urban fantasy and a lot of epic fantasy, but I also read some sci-fi, some thrillers. Basically, I'll try most anything. But yeah, right now I'm finishing a series by Brandon Sanderson, and it takes a long time to get through his books because they're huge. So I have been on it for a while, but yeah.
I mostly write children's fiction, although I do have some picture book nonfiction. I'd say, I don't read the chapter books as much now, unless I'm reading for research, but I try to write books that I enjoyed as a kid, like something that I would have wanted to read as a kid, because I read, all the Boxcar Children and Babysitter's Club and Animorphs and all the chapter book, the series where they had like 50 or 100 books or something. They just keep going. And I do read a lot of picture books with my toddler. And it's really interesting to me because, they always tell writers to read for research and, read all these different picture books or chat or whatever your genre is. And I don't think it really clicked until I was reading to my toddler. And I was like, oh, there's just, you just start seeing what books kids enjoy as opposed to just an adult reading a certain genre of book and, trying to study it. But when you're reading with a child, kind of just gives you a new perspective on writing for that age group. So I've had a lot of fun writing the chapter book series and just envisioning, my daughter hopefully reading it when she's a little older, maybe. I have older nieces and they've read it, so it was kind of fun to share with them. As far as what I read, usually I really enjoy sci-fi and fantasy. But I just enjoy a good story, so I will really read anything that kind of catches my eye. So I honestly am, I write the chapter book is kind of contemporary fiction, but that's probably the genre I read the least of, I would say. I don't dislike it. I just, I get sucked into other genres mostly. And I read the Brandon Sanderson's YA series he has out. I really enjoyed that. I read Mistborn recently, and I enjoyed that, but then it was a lot. Some of those books wear you out, but it was really good. I enjoy his writing a lot. So, yeah.
Awesome. So Brandon Sanderson has been on my list forever. And I swear one of these days I'm actually going to read his books.
Yeah.
So I write widely and I read widely. So I write Southern fiction, I write historical fiction, I write fantasy, and I write nonfiction. So I write nonfiction for writers. I do have a published book in that field. And then the nonfiction book that I'm working on now with the animal tales, which is not going to be the title. I haven't decided the title, but I just keep calling it the Animal Tales book. So if I talk about that, you know what I'm saying. So I do, and I read as widely as I write, or more widely, honestly. I love fantasy. J.R.R. Tolkien is my absolute favorite author of all time. But I love Jane Eyre, and I love Wuthering Heights, and I love, more contemporary stuff. I love historical fiction. So many different things. I think several of you said it, a good story. You know, I just love a good story. And that is kind of what goes across the board. So now I am going to turn it over to our readers to ask any questions you guys would like. You can either just unmute and ask, or you can pop it into the chat if you don't want to talk. Either way is totally fine.
I'm curious, what brought you all to writing? Like each of you, as far as some of you mentioned a little bit, kind of it just happened, but was there some kind of catalyst that was like, nope, this is definitely what I'm going to do?
Well, for me, I read everything at the library that I was interested in at our small library in my local community. I went through it once and then started over and started through it again and just decided to try to make up my own world.
For me, it was like during pandemic, I started work. You know, I didn't have to commute. I had more time to watch things, and one miniseries called The Hornblower just kind of captured my imagination. And I didn't like that one character died, and I started imagining, like, oh no, on the ship there's going to be a young woman. She's going to be a doctor, and she's going to save him. And somehow that like took up in my imagination. Like one morning, I woke up and I almost heard a voice like, "You're supposed to be writing." That's how it started.
Yes, I always enjoyed writing, like all through school, and I had teachers that were really encouraging, but it just wasn't something I thought of pursuing, honestly, until I was with the circus, and I just worked all the time and I just didn't get a lot of time to go do stuff outside of the circus. And but I'd be sitting there and I like, if I'm going to write, like, this is as good a time as any to start, taking this seriously. And so I don't know. I think that's just kind of when I was like, I could do this, and really, I don't know, wanted to pursue that. So kind of something I always enjoyed, like all through my life, but just probably, I don't know, it was actually about 10 years ago, I guess, when I kind of thought, okay, I'm going to get serious about this. And then really only in like the last 2 years, really, really got serious, I guess. But
Love that. The really, really serious. Yeah, I've been there. So for me, my background has always been in writing. I double majored in journalism and English, and so I started out writing for newspapers, and then I went into the dark side of PR, public relations, and I did that kind of stuff. And I freelanced for many different publications, magazines, all sorts of stuff. But I always wanted to be an author. And honestly, for me, it came to a point where I couldn't not write. And that's just what it was for me. So, I finally let go of the fear and haven't looked back, and I love it. And that was a great question, Rachel. Y'all are going to see Rachel more this summer. So she is one of our other authors. She's actually going to be interviewing me for my chat. So yay. So we have a couple of other things here. So Andrew asked, for the animal stories that are being written, do you have anything about turtles, alligators, or gorillas? Those are my favorite animals. So Andrew, funny story. It's not actually going to be a story in my book, but I am going to reference it. And you have got to meet my father-in-law. So at one point, he grew up in New Orleans East. And at one point, he actually did have a pet alligator that he would walk on a leash in New Orleans East. True story. So you seriously have to meet him. You would love him. And then Heidi said, now that you talk about your Good Thing series as Southern fiction, I understand more of what you mean by that genre. I'd never heard of that before this challenge, but it's really neat. Is there such a thing as Northern fiction or Midwest fiction? And that's a good question. So I don't know. I guess I just always thought that Southern fiction was a thing, but people really haven't heard of it. So it's just simply set in the South of the United States, Southern United States. But there are certain things that always come into play. Food is always a big deal, but I think that would probably be any any fiction that is set in a particular area, I just feel like food is such a big part of every place. Anyway, so yes, I don't know if anybody knows the answer to if there's Northern fiction or Midwest fiction as an actual genre. I'm interested to know that as well. And then she also
there's Western fiction, like historical fiction, like Western, like things set
right
here.
Yeah, that's true. Like the Western fiction. Mm-hmm. So, and then she asked, "What does your daily writing schedule look like? Especially those who are also moms. I want to write, but I have so many interesting activities. How do you do it?" Yeah, it's tough. Just my 2 cents, like, I just had to make the time. My first novel came to be because I spent from 10 to 2. That was my sweet spot. 10 at night to 2 in the morning. That was when I had. Thankfully, I was a night owl. That's a little bit harder for me now, but it just, you grab moments, and sometimes it's just a few moments here and there.
Yeah,
Sorry, go ahead. What really got me going was National Novel Writing Month, where you try to write a book in 50,000 words in 1 month. And I set out to do it, and I did it, and that proved to me that if I really wanted to, I could get those words down every day. I wouldn't suggest doing that every month, but it did prove to me that I can do it. So yeah, just prioritizing, I guess.
I started with writing, like getting up at 5 in the morning. I made that a habit, and so I would write between 5:30 and 7 a.m. every day. And I still do that, even like because like my daughter, she gets up at 7 to go to school. So even if I think I'll have time later in the day, I still always honor that time between 5:30 and 7. I think like I'm so used to it. That's always my best writing time. I try to write a little more when after I take her to school, maybe another hour or two if I'm lucky. In afternoons, I usually can't because I now have clients, but whether I'm proofreading or doing advertisement for them or something like that. So I gotta focus on that. But I try to focus every day on at least some writing that I can do.
Yeah, I think something I always thought that it actually kind of hindered my writing was that I felt like I needed this like big block of time to really sit down and focus and get in the groove. And I realized that just getting some words on the page is the most important thing. And, you have to have something to work with to, turn it into the story. And so, especially after I had my toddler, I just, any little 20 minutes of time here and there, that I could get, or nap time, I just sit down and try to write. And I used to be a pantser, just sit and start writing, but I'm a little less of that and more of an outliner now. And I find that actually helps me finish projects.
All right. So we're down to like 2 minutes, just over 2 minutes. So very quickly, Andrew asked, do y'all like poetry? And I can't wait for you to meet my critique partner, May Smith. You're going to see her later this summer as well. She is a poet. She has a poetry book out, which is fantastic. And I know several of our authors, there is poetry within their books. So Rachel, you've got some in yours. Yeah, she writes fantasy. So you're going to see that. So you're going to see little snippets of that. So stay tuned. And then Faith is asking, could each of the featured authors share their favorite book? I know that's hard. Yes, it is, Faith. You know how hard that is. Just curious. So let's go around really quickly and just say your favorite book.
Count of Monte Cristo.
Green Rider by Kristen Britton.
Sabriel, actually, by Garth Nix. I think, yeah. Excuse me.
Mine is actually The Silmarillion. It's J.R.R. Tolkien. So, yes. So thank you guys so much for coming. Oh, I have to draw a name. And let's see. Let me make sure I've got everybody in here. So before we run out of time, very quickly. All right, I'm not looking. I promise I'm not looking. See? Okay. Faith, you won. Yay! All right. So you're going to get a Book Swag prize pack. So you guys come back for the next two, the mid-challenge boost, the wind down at the end, you could potentially win a book swag prize pack. And of course, there are going to be 5 books, autographed books given away, and then our 2 grand prizes, which are $30 each to bookshop.org. I'm very excited about. So thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. Thank you, authors, so much. I cannot wait to talk to y'all more this summer, and y'all get your questions ready for them. I'll see you guys later. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.